Alright, so I found this old video of my friend and I playing pool, and as you can see it looks pretty bad. It's a 720p footage captured on a cheap phone camera with poor light sensitivity. The whole thing is jittery with lots of motion blur, the scene has flat lighting, the colors are dull, and it simply looks boring. So I decided to test my post-production skills to transform this archive footage into cinematic 20-second scene. And that's how I did it. So first thing I did was enhancing the video quality using some free AI tools. I also reduced some digital noise and then specifically enhanced some details on the actor's face using that same AI thing. I fixed my shaky filming style at this point to make the further steps way easier. After all that AI wizardry, there were a handful of digital artifacts on the video that just didn't look quite natural. So I applied a high-frequency distortion and a few noise generators to reduce that annoying fake sharpness. And then I manually reduced some of the big issues with masks. The same masking technique helped me fix some of the surfaces that were missing textures. Then, I upgraded the frame rate from 30 to 60 frames per second so I could adjust the time to make the action pop, and a deep flicker smoothed some of the weird stuff that came in those in-between frames. Now here's where it gets wild. I rotoscoped all of the objects to slice the scene into 5 separate layers. The background, the main character, the table, the ball number 1, and the ball number 2. Now guess what I did it for? Focus depth. Tilt shift for the main table to animate the focus pole. I automated the camera blur for the rest of the layers, and boom! It's not a phone footage anymore. Finally, I could bring the video back to life by simulating that natural camera movement like it was filmed with hands, but not as shaky as mine in that original video. Speaking of which, there were still some motion blurs left from the shaking, so I managed to hide them with focus shifts and a quick zoom in. Now, most of the movies are filmed with expensive anamorphic lenses that have that signature kind of distortion, so I simulated that as well. I adjusted the lighting, added some bloom for the bright spots. Finally, I did some color correction and emulated that Kodak film look. I added some film grains, scratches, dust particles, all that stuff. And then it was the time for the titles. Now, besides the choice of a cool font, which I actually took an extra time to think about, titles design may seem like a pretty easy task. However, I found a way to overcomplicate it as well. I wanted to preserve that authentic film look even at such level as graphics. I added some texture and a little bit of distortion to the titles I made, and you probably have an idea of how old film titles look like. Yep, they shake and flicker as the tape rolls. So that's what I did to mine. Here it is. Pretty exciting, isn't it? Sound design. That's a whole different story, which I actually have a separate video about. But long story short, I added a bunch of cool sound effects that make your ears go crazy. And for the grand finale, you know, it wouldn't be this kind of scene without a cheesy gangster movie style funky music. So that's why I just wrote this piece that you'll hear in a second. So here's the result.
Now if you want to win this game, you better aim real good, just like your life depends on it. And that's how you do it.
Oh, by the way, I almost forgot to flex my 3D graphic skills. So yeah, in case you didn't notice, this whole time I've been sitting in this cozy studio that I designed myself, using Blender. Hey, I'm not even filming myself right now, I'm just doing voiceover. Wait, am I even a real person?
Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later.